Welcome back, everyone, to a well, I guess not welcome back, but welcome to a new year and welcome back to the Spillin It podcast, our first episode of 2026. I'm Ben. Jesse is alongside me. Jesse, new year, second year of the pod, technically, if we're going by the calendar.
Yeah, second year of the pod, and with that we had to get some upgrades. Got a nice new microphone because my audio quality sounded that of some 1950s Marconi era stuff here. So
You were at least 1993. Like, let's
I'll
let's
I'll
be
take
let's be
that.
respectful. I wasn't like talking to you through a tin can, but you do definitely now have. I've got a good mic. You definitely have the best mic on the pod now. So I'm
I'm
jealous.
excited. It's got a nice little like touch to mute option here.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, so I'm showing off a little bit. It's been nice.
I like that. I like that. Well, we're gonna not waste time. We're gonna dive right in. Folks, there's a lot going on in the sports world. We missed a bit. Are we gonna recap all of it? Hell no. Are we gonna cover what's going on and maybe touch on some of the stuff that happened in the past? For sure. We're gonna just jump right in. And this one comes by special request, actually. One of our most loyal podcast listeners asked for us to address the Dunk the Halls NBA broadcast. Jesse, I did not have a chance to watch this game in real time. I've seen highlights, though, both on that day and since, and some preparation for this. As a podcast that is definitely a noted fan of the Nickelodeon and the, themed Disney NFL broadcasts, how do you feel about the NBA game?
I just love all of them. And to be quite frank, I think basketball works even better just because it's so fast paced. My
Absolutely.
favorite part of the entire broadcast is just how clunky it is and how broken it is.
For
And the
sure.
announcer is just trying to scramble to come up with any sort of content at all whatsoever. And it warms my heart. It truly does. And for it being a Christmas broadcast, I think it's even better. Just simply the fact that there were some mad lads in the lab sitting there thinking, you know what we should do? We should put a basketball court right in the middle of Main Street, USA. Just put it right in the middle. Did the dimensions fit? No, not even close. But we're putting this entire court here, and you know what? Mickey is crossing up Goofy, and we're gonna have a great time.
There's this guy on TikTok. I forget his name. I would love to give him credit. I love his content. He does this thing where he is just like, talking about like crazy plot points or things in like shows and movies and such and games. And he's always like putting his fingers together and like falling out of frame. And he's like, "What if we put Goofy in the low post?" Yes. It's like, "What if Goofy had an absolutely sick low post game?" Like, and that's just like basically what they do. I agree with you. The more broken, the better. It's like when this isn't as popular now, or maybe it is, and like people like I just don't notice it because I'm older. But when we were in like high school and they would have the like knockoff sports games where it was clear you didn't have the rights to what you
Oh
want, the
yeah, oh
league
yeah.
you wanted, but you were gonna make like a football game anyway, and it was just so clearly broken. And there was specifically there'd be like a mechanic that just didn't work. And it looks like watching that, like watching the NFL game that they did between I think with Eagles and Vikings, maybe I forget who the other team was, but where Jalen Hurts turned the ball over twice on one play. Uncanny Valley version of that was crazy, and I feel the same way about the NBA game. I agree. I think it lends itself a little easier because like the Monsters Inc. broadcast this year for the NFL game. It was weird. Like they just randomly assigned Mike Wazowski to be in like the slot, and like you have no
Yeah,
idea if he's getting the ball. But in the NBA, there's five dudes on the court. Most guys are
yeah.
touching the ball each possession. You don't have to worry about that. Mickey can stand in the corner for a couple seconds. He's gonna hit the open J.
Yeah,
I think
and
it's so fun.
low key, looking at Goofy play just reminds me of Pascal Siakam. They got the same kind of like arm length
Yeah,
going.
the proportions are just right.
Yeah, it's just about perfect. So I was really hoping, one of these times we get a Pacers game for that just to see Goofy Siakam go absolutely nuts.
And on a real note, like it's just a fun way to add
Oh,
a
absolutely.
draw to an audience that may already have some interest in football, right? But it's great. Like when I watched I didn't get to see the Dunk the Halls game, but when I watched the Monsters Inc. game, to us, like grown men who have a podcast talking about ball, like it seems a little bit silly, the commentary. But to like a child who's like, yeah, I don't know what pass interference is. I just know my dad always screams that it's happening at the TV. Like it's fun to be able to learn that way. And as a
Yeah.
child, you're like, yo, I love Mickey Mouse. Like I love that he's shooting these threes. Like maybe I'll watch some basketball. Like and that guy that Mickey was playing with, Pascal Siakam, like he seems cool. And then that kid is consigned to a life of disappointment. But hey, you know what? It's a fun entry point at least.
That's what we should have done with Allie and Alyssa, my younger sisters, for when we started playing fantasy football. We should have just put them on the Mike Wazowski game and had them learn
Absolutely.
all the rules that way.
I would have loved to have t taught your sister-in-law's football based on that game. Now they're nuanced watchers of ball. Like they happen
Yes,
too
they are
late,
ball
but
knowers now.
but as that would have been a great entry point. I agree.
And shout out to Alyssa for winning our fantasy football league this year. Absolute
Yeah.
madman this year in the
It was
last
a
4 weeks
crazy
or so.
finish. Crazy finish. All right. Well, thanks to again our top listener Becca for the suggestion. And again, folks, this is a pretty open podcast. Like if you have content ideas and that you want us to talk about, just let us know. Drop us a line. You know where to find us. Comment in the episodes or send us a text. You probably have our number. Um, anyway, moving on to our next topic here. Jesse, we broke down the college football playoff bracket. I felt like we did a pretty good job
Yeah, pretty
talking
good.
about that bracket, and then we were very wrong about
Yeah.
how the games turned out. Just as a quick update, actually, right this second, as we're recording, so if you listen to this, when you listen to this, this game will already be over. So ignore whatever we say about Miami and Ole Miss. That game's happening right now. We've got Miami and Ole Miss, and then Indiana and Oregon. Those are our final four teams, Jesse, exactly how we all thought when the season
Yep.
started.
Exactly how we drew it up.
So we're not gonna probably break down those games specifically because by the time you listen to this, both games maybe have happened if you're not catching it in the first couple hours of this episode's release. So Jesse, let's just check in. Like, how have you and how do you feel like the playoff has gone? Like, do you have any new takes or thoughts about the teams or the format? And then maybe we'll name a champion since there's enough football left for us to do that. But in general, what have you thought of this year's slate?
Well, first and foremost, I got to apologize to the Ole Miss team. I severely underestimated their response
Hmm.
to losing Lane Kiffin as their coach, and I thought that they were an upset candidate, but they went the complete other direction. And Trinidad Chambliss is him. I know he
He's
hasn't
so
been
fun to
big,
watch.
just so fun to watch. Just playing backyard football and just that old Bulldog style football where nothing makes sense. The original play, throw it out the door. None of it makes sense. I'm just gonna try to run around and see if there's a dude open. Playground rules, I love it. But the resiliency of that team to come together in a time where really no one believed in them, and that's myself included. I own that. Really inspiring, truly. And looks like at halftime right now they're playing a close game against Miami, and also
Yeah.
Miami's surprising some folks. I think really the only team that's performing to expectations so far has been IU. And I know you're gonna be rolling your eyes about that, but I'm not gonna give it too hard of a time. I will say there was a point last week where I was like, should I buy some face paints and show up in an IU shirt and like face paint and have it recording first just to get your reaction live? And I was like, you know what? No, I ain't gonna do that. IU has had 2 good years in the last 150, so I'm just going to enjoy this humbly and let's see where it takes us. But yeah, I mean that's the beauty of the college football playoff. You get in, anything can happen.
Absolutely. And about the only thing that we've had for sure in this first two seasons of the 12 team format, teams with the bye are 1-7.
Yeah,
Now, I don't think that necessarily means that a ton. Last year, obviously, the bye was the top four conference champions, so it wasn't the top four seeds total.
right.
And even this year, there weren't any perfect teams. Ohio State lost to a Miami team that has a lot of talent, right?
Yes.
You can't discount that. It's not like they lost to nobody. And
Right.
then Ohio State or I'm sorry, that was Ohio State. IU is the only team in the 2 years to win at or that after the bye, so they held firm. You had Oregon playing Texas Tech. That game's a coin flip anyway. It's
It
four
is.
versus five,
It is.
and then Georgia played Ole Miss already this season and was losing and had to rally and then had this incredible comeback and beat them. It's really hard to beat a team twice, as
It
hopefully
is,
IU
especially a
finds out
conference
tomorrow
team.
night. So, uh, I don't think there's a ton to take away of like you don't want the buy because
Right.
I do think it is valuable, but there is probably something too how much time you have off. It's not like the NFL bye where, the Broncos and
Yeah.
the Seahawks are going to have 1 week off, can rest and recover, but they're still in like game form. It's been almost a month since
Yeah.
those teams have played ball by the time that they do. So I don't think I still think you would want to buy. I don't know. We'll have to see. The sample size is pretty small, so we'll see going forward. It'll be interesting to monitor if this is kind of just a 2 year blip or if next year, the trend continues. I have been impressed with Miami a lot. They've had a lot of talent. I just didn't really believe in Carson Beck at all, and
Right.
he's played well enough. He hasn't really been a stud, but he hasn't really had to be.
Yeah.
So, the rest of the team has the horses to go. Same thing about Ole Miss. I have no belief in Trinidad Chambliss as an NFL player just because I don't know that that style really translates. But he is one heck of a college football player, and I love tuning in to watch him. And I don't even I'm an Alabama guy. Obviously, I have a dislike for Ole Miss, but I just love watching him play ball, and they have some really exciting players on that team. I did have to watch the Alabama IU game in enemy territory back up north. That was not the most fun. And then
I can't imagine, no.
at our staff meeting at work this week, we do all of our business and they always ask, like, does anyone have anything else for the good of the group or anything they want to share? And one of our construction guys is like, yeah, I mean, I'm from Ohio, so I feel about Ohio State, but how about that Indiana? And like somebody across the room starts
No, no,
like
no, no. We don't like you. No, 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 no.
somebody from
No.
across the room starts this like IU chant, and I'm like, this is my own personal hell. And the person next to me is like, because they beat Alabama. And I'm like, no, because I hate Indiana so much. And now I'm being forced to confront them at all
No, we ain't
aspects of
taking
life.
any sort of Ohio State or Ohio bandwagoners at this
Well, if it
point.
makes you
No.
feel better, he could not name the quarterback. He just said the quarterback, what's his name? And then, couldn't do it. So,
Not great. The
but
Heisman Trophy winner.
it was jarring. I was like, I'm not even safe at work in Pensacola, Florida. That's crazy.
No, and you know what? I want my flowers because I thought I could have been a lot worse during that whole process, but I was like, you know what? No, I'm
Yeah,
taking
I
this one.
respect it. Yeah, you were very honorable. Most people that I know were honorable. It was just more just being surrounded by all of it was not very fun, especially when the game started and continued to go poorly. It wasn't super fun. I was pretty confident. I felt like, and obviously, like going into the game, and I talked a lot about this to people. I was like, I feel like we're the more talented team, but I don't feel like we're the better team.
Yeah.
That's not really rocket science.
And it comes down to coaching, I think, too.
A lot has been made of the relative recruit status of the two teams.
Hmm.
That was a pretty consistent through line. So that's not really like groundbreaking stuff, but just, credit to IU. They wanted the game a hell of a lot more than anybody on Alabama did. And,
Yeah.
they'll be playing for a shot to go to the big game, which is still just like, that's also why
Mind-boggling.
I'm so irritated about this IU team is it's the one school that it's like the coolest storyline in the history of college football, and I just can't support it fundamentally, and that is unfair. You sticking with IU, I assume, for your title team?
I think so. Yeah. Honestly, either that or I think the winner of the IU Oregon game wins the whole thing. I
I
do.
tend to agree. I have Oregon.
Yeah, I think I'm going with either one of them in that situation. But last thing on that, I just think people have been saying it this whole time and have said it much better than I can. But just a testament to Kurt Signetti in turning the program around. But honestly, just having the guys ready, having, as you mentioned, the only win in the bye week history so far of the college football playoff, I don't think is any small feat. And I think it is a testament to his preparation. I did see a tweet that cracked me up that was like, I love the dynamic of IU where they have just the most fundamentally positive human that's ever existed with a man paired with a man that has never smiled in his life. It just
Yes,
makes me so happy. I love it.
he's a Saban disciple. Like
He is. He
he.
is. We
It's
thank you.
honestly almost eerie, like some of his mannerisms on the. He doesn't. He's not angry enough to fully be there yet, but give him
Yeah,
like 4 more years of Big Ten football, and he'll probably get there.
I'm sure. All right, so moving on, we're gonna go ahead and briefly touch on NFL playoffs, and this one can get a little crazy here, just trying to make predictions. And I think we found that out with our college football playoff predictions, but we're just gonna kind of briefly get into what we think is gonna end up being the conference championships, and then into our Super Bowl. I had very small amount of hope that my Ravens pick from the first episode of the pod was going to somehow miraculously make it happen, and then Tyler Loop absolutely just shanked the ball. So you know,
If either
tough seed.
secondary was interested in playing football, the game could have been very different. Honestly, he missed a kick, but it seemed pretty win. I mean, Chris Boswell missed a kick, so I'm gonna assume that the
That was
wind was
wild.
bad. Yeah, pretty tough, Jesse, that our your preseason picks did not for your conference champions were the Ravens and the Packers,
Yep.
and mine were the Bills and the Packers, and our Packers are the 7th seed and the Bills are the 6th seed.
That's a tough one. That's a tough one. With that being said, my conference championship picks right now, I'm kind of going with some hot hands, and I'm going Seahawks and Rams, little division matchup. Actually, both of mine are division matchups, and then Bills Patriots. And the Bills
Wow.
pick really isn't as much as a referendum on how they are performing and more just to where the bracket lies, I
Sure.
think, at this point. I'm not in love with that pick, but I do have the Super Bowl being Rams and Patriots, and I have the Rams taking that one just for experience of Matthew Stafford alone.
So I'm sorry, I realized that I needed to make sure that my conference championship was mathematically possible given the seeds. So I'm double checking that really quick. Okay, yes, it is. So I have in the NFC, you said Rams Seahawks, right?
Yep.
Yeah, I have the same exact.
I
Um,
think there is a significant tier differential between the top two teams and
yes.
everybody else there.
I think, and again, we're not getting into individual picks, but the Bears and the Eagles don't scare me in the NFC, and they're
Yep.
the other two. They're the second two and the 3 seed, and the Panthers, great story. They also don't scare me. So I really think it's going to come down to which of those wild card teams in the NFC can get hot.
Yep.
Um, and I obviously think that's the Rams. So I'm going Rams, Seahawks. In the AFC, I'm going Broncos, Jags, baby.
I love it.
I
I love it.
unfortunately, which
Finally
gives me
believing in your team, man.
great hesitate. Well, yeah, it's just like you got to win one game,
Yep.
and I think they could do it. And then it gives me great pause to pick the Jaguars to do anything of substance. But I really do think they're hashtag that team this year. Um, that being said, my Super Bowl is I can't believe I'm going to put this out to the public. This is going to age so poorly, which I won't feel bad. I feel no guilty conscience making these picks because the NFL season, as just highlighted by our preseason picks, is so wacky that I like really
Nothing
have
has
no
made
idea.
sense.
Unfortunately, I do have Jaguars Rams, which would probably be relegated to Ion Television as a Super Bowl. Um, that's my Super Bowl. I think the Rams get it done ultimately. But Jaguars are good, man. They're real
They
good. I
are.
don't think they'll replicate it at all next year because they're the Jaguars. But
I saw something interesting, and I want to know if you agree with it, that for Josh Allen, that this
yeah,
is the best chance to make a run. But unfortunately, this is probably the worst team that he has had since
I agree
he's become a
100%.
star. But no Burrow, no Mahomes, no Lamar. You know, in reality, this probably is the clearest path that he has. But unfortunately, like we've mentioned, their defense is horrible.
Yeah, and like you're so right because every year he's had to play at least one of those guys.
Yeah,
But assuming that the Patriots take care of the Chargers, then and even if not, so the quarterbacks that he potentially would face in a run to the Super Bowl, Trevor Lawrence guaranteed. Assuming the Patriots win, then he would play Bo Nix
right.
because they would be the lowest remaining seed, and then he would play either Justin Herbert, who obviously is very very good, but also could play geriatric Aaron Rodgers or CJ Stroud.
Yeah,
Neither is terrible, but like
no,
that's a very different lineup than what he's used to going through. But
right.
like you said, the defense is just truly a mess. I really don't know what to do with it. And the offense is still good, but I feel like they're prone to more like what's going on here, fellas,
Yes,
games than they're usually prone to. So it's like Josh Allen's playing good ball, but even he's been a little off. I really don't know because they're the most tested team on that half of the bracket by far.
right.
But
Absolutely.
I just like they're also bad, like or not
Yeah.
bad, but unreliable. I think is more accurate.
And you did touch on that where they did play a division winner schedule this year, which is no small feat, especially in the AFC. They played some tough competition, but I'm just thinking back to that season the Bills had where they lost to the Chiefs the first time, where it was one of the greatest games in playoff history in a divisional round where they went back and forth the last 2 minutes like crazy. That Bills team, if you were to pluck them and put them into this season, I think would walk into the Super Bowl. That was such a better team. And they just don't have that it anymore, right? Um, yeah, definitely interesting. Looks like you're muted, brother. There
Whoops.
you go.
Sorry, I was telling my dog to stop licking his foot. Um, Anyway, yeah, no, I agree. Yeah, it sucks because like they've had such Josh has had so many better teams, but
Yeah.
this just that's the reality of the NFL. You gotta win with the guys you got, and you gotta
Yeah.
beat the teams in front of you. Real quick, Jesse, we've made our kind of picks there. Just is there a particular game that in this wild card round that really like interests you that you're like you've got it circled?
You know, as I'm looking at it, I
'Cause
do
I have
have a
two.
couple. I have a couple.
I have three really.
The first one is actually really kind of funny, and it's the first game of the slate, and it's the Rams Panthers because if you remember, the Panthers did win
Panthers
that
did beat
game.
the Rams.
If they win that game, it's going to be the most wild finish to a season possible, or Seattle's going to be crowned the NFC champion after the first weekend, if that's the case, right?
Yeah.
Things could get absolutely wild. Packers Bears, I think, will be decent. They've had a couple good matchups. But the one that I am really interested in for myself is going to be Chargers and Patriots at 8 p.m. on Sunday. Um, because again, on paper, it looks like New England should kind of dog walk them. But if they can protect Herbert even a smidge, he might be able to do something.
You know what I love about podcasting with you, Jesse? Most of the time, you know, stuff like this, we tend to agree. This is one of those rare times where actually I picked the other three games for
Yes.
this answer. They're all really compelling games. I agree with you on all of those. For me, Steelers Texans has the potential to be just downright putrid.
Just
And
awful.
I love the idea of just a mud fight for in the playoffs. Pretty much any other time in the season,
Six
I'm
to
like,
three
I
final
don't know
score.
about that. But like the Texans are the best defense in football, and I don't know, the Steelers, nobody in this league has proven to be better at dragging you down to the muck and beating you than the Steelers. That's what they want to do to
They
you.
play their competition. They
That's
really
how
do.
they play the game.
Yeah,
So I'm intrigued in that Monday night matchup for that reason. Jaguars Bills has the potential to be an all-time wild card game.
it does.
The Jaguars have a pretty decently performing defense. They're very high variance though. They make a lot of
Yes.
splash plays, but they're not like locked down necessarily. And Josh is liable to go nuclear. And then we've seen what the Jaguars offense has been able to do since the acquisition of Jacoby Myers.
Right.
They've been really good. So I really am interested in that game. And then the a final game that you didn't mention that I'm interested in, Eagles Niners could be really fun. It just
That could be
has
a lot of fun.
great vibes. It's one of those like, man, that's crazy that one of those teams is going to lose wild card
Yeah.
weekend. The Eagles are really bad, but they're also still the three seed. They have a lot of really
It's the
talented
worst Eagles
players.
team we've seen since Jalen Hurts has taken over.
They're so bad, but they're also the three seed in the NFC. And it's not because they have 9 wins. I mean, they have 11 or 12 wins. I don't remember the exact number, but I mean they're a capable team, and they literally won the Super Bowl last year with a
Yeah.
lot of the same players. So they're all they got to do is get hot, and then the Niners up until that game against the Seahawks were the hottest offense in football. So I'm interested in seeing the Eagles defense, which has been really rounding in the form, including their dismantling. I say dismantling because the defense did it, not because the offense dismantled them. But the defensive performance the Eagles put up against the Bills was really interesting, really really strong. So I don't know. I'm really intrigued by that Niners Eagles matchup.
I'm not so sure with the Eagles how much I believe in that 11 win total. I mean, their division that they were playing in this year was hot butt cheeks. I mean, it just frankly, I'll be honest. You got the Giants, you got the Commanders, and you got the Cowboys. You know,
It was a bad division, but the
it's a
yeah, but they
11
played a
wins
first
for
place
anyone.
schedule too. It's
Yeah.
hard because it's like I don't know. I'd have to I kind of want to look at the. I know we're getting so off track here, and this is, but like I'm going to indulge us on this one. I have to pull up this Eagles
I mean, it's our
schedule.
pod. We can do what we
11 and
want.
6. Yeah. So they started it. So they beat the Cowboys. Not great, but like competitive. They beat the Chiefs in week 2. Turned out to be bad. They did beat the Rams in week 3, but they scored 33 points, which I think is their highest point total of the season outside of playing the Giants. Um, beat the Bucks, which in week 4 was a big deal. That was the Bucks'
That
only
was a
loss
big
in the
deal at the
first
time. Yes,
third of the season. Lost a 4-point game to the Broncos. Got blown out by the Giants in that one game.
that was a bad
That feels like
loss.
forever ago, but really was not. Um, beat the Vikings, Giants, that ugly 10-7 game against the Packers, beat the Lions, then they lost 3 in a row to Cowboys, Bears, Chargers. Three two playoff teams and the Cowboys, which, divisional game, you're going to expect some variance. Humiliated the Raiders, which doesn't mean anything. Beat the Commanders, doesn't mean anything. Beat the Bills in that week 17 game I was just highlighting them for, and then they lost week 18 when they didn't play like anybody. So it's like a mix of like impressive wins against teams that were good at the time and like, dog, what are you doing here? So I
Right.
guess that pretty much sums up the Eagles season. Real quick, Jesse, sorry, this is not NFL related at all and not on our outline, but the Pacers game just went final, and Rick Carlisle is the 11th coach in NBA history to reach 1,000 career wins.
Attaboy, attaboy. Hall of Fame lock.
Couldn't
That
we couldn't do this pod without the live breaking news.
No, absolutely not. That's what we're here for, right? That live breaking news. But no, so proud of Rick Carlisle, and I'm so happy that he did it with the Pacers.
Yeah.
When he left the first time, it always left such a bad taste in my mouth just because so much happened that was well beyond his control, right?
Yes.
And it's just so nice to see him have so much success coming back to us. And, congratulations, Coach Carlisle. You are a legend.
Absolutely. Sorry to break up the riveting, Eagles schedule talk here and
Hey, that also breaks a 13 game losing streak, y'all.
let's go, baby. Not don't win too much,
No,
like
no, no, please keep losing. I want the pick.
we need that pick.
Here's
All
the
right,
thing, real
Jesse.
quick on that
Yes.
before I know we're completely off the rails at this point,
Ah, man, it's
but
our pod.
if that NBA Finals move in the middle of the finals to get your pick back ends up resulting in the number one overall pick for the Pacers, that will go down as the greatest trade outside of Tyrese Halliburton in franchise history
Yeah.
because they did not have that pick until right before Game 7.
Correct. Which, again, like we could do a whole separate pod. That's the theme of this podcast is talking about like we could do a whole separate pod, but like, why did you make that move, Pelicans? Like, I don't get it. Um, quick 20 cents, 20 seconds before we move on to our next topic. Early trade Young thoughts?
From what I'm seeing, it doesn't look like he's going to play much this year.
Yeah.
My issue is he a slightly better Jordan Poole in this point in his
That's
career.
disrespectful. I'm sorry.
Maybe
I
not
can't believe I'm
slightly,
going to be
but
the Trae Young defender, but
but
finish your thoughts.
a tier above Jordan Poole, high volume scorer for an empty team. That's my that's my issue. Is where are you going to go from here with that? Because clearly they're trying to tank. They're clearly trying to pull back, and they're
Hmm.
going for that top three pick, right? How long are you going to wait for your guys to develop? Because Trey isn't like the young gun he used to be. He's not old by any means, but I'm just trying to think about
27.
championship building roster, right? And his game is built upon high volume scoring. And if you have a young person that you're trying to develop, I don't know, it'll just be difficult. It'll just be difficult. I'm not sure what they could have done differently. I don't know. Atlanta definitely needed to offload. I agree with the move for them, but
Hmm.
for the Wizards, it's just kind of confusing.
So I can't believe that you've backed me into this corner, but I love the trade for the Wizards. Here's the thing, I agree with you. You want to prioritize the development of your young stars. Trey isn't old; he's 27, but his body has worn down a little bit. He's not quite the same scorer that he's still playing at a high level when he plays, which again it sounds like he's not really going to play much this year. It costs you CJ McCollum, who's not in your plans, and Corey Kispert, who hasn't really been
That's fair.
like a difference maker.
That's fair.
Now you have, and again, it's hilarious to say this about Trey Young, but like an actual adult in the room for your young players. He can serve as your offensive fulcrum. Your guys like Kolabali, Sar, right? These are guys that need somebody to set them up. They are
For sure.
not the initiators, the attackers, the playmakers. You've just added one of the best in the league to run your show for you. I love it for the Wizards. When was the last time the Wizards won anything of consequence, right?
Nothing.
They have been bad forever. They've whiffed on draft picks. It just hasn't worked out for them. John Wall was probably the last time they were even
Yeah,
relevant, right? So
yeah.
now you've added at least the chance at not a crazy cost to find out like, hey, which of these young guys can be part of a winning team? And how and can we develop them into that? Is Trey Young part of the next true competitive Wizards team? I don't know. But I like the move, especially for the cost, for them to at least find out what they have and give them an adult in there. It's like when who was the team that signed Tyus Jones because they just needed like literally anybody to play point and like then I can't think of
It
the
wasn't
name.
Memphis because that's where he was.
No, it was whoever signed him after Memphis because they just did not have an adult point guard.
Right.
And then they did. And now obviously Trey Young is like the most expensive possible version of that.
Yeah.
But I like the move because it gives fans something to be excited about in a franchise that hasn't had a lot of that. And it gives you a chance to evaluate your young talent. For Atlanta, if you've decided to move on, this was apparently the market. You're at least, it's just a salary dump.
Yes.
They've had some other guys. Nikhil Alexander Walker has really stepped up this season as kind of their replacement point guard. Jalen Johnson continues to improve his
Yeah.
game.
Jalen's him.
They're not really going anywhere right now anyway, but you freed up some cap space. You could make a splashy move. You open up some flexibility. Looks kind of bad on the surface, but at least this year, CJ and Kispert can eat up some minutes, and yeah, Kispert can be a useful player on your team. He just doesn't have to be
He
your
was a
starter
salary
now.
match,
Yeah, he's a
frankly.
salary match and maybe you get something out of him. But okay, I just wanted to get your 2 cents. That was
Yeah.
a big trade that happened this week. We haven't talked a lot of NBA, obviously, as
Yeah.
we move forward and the NFL season continues to dwindle to an end. I'm sure we'll mix in some more NFL talk. Jesse, we have 6 minutes before our Zoom mandated break, so I'm going to set that as our hard stop. We
Okay.
have 6 minutes. I want to hear if you have any early NFL draft thoughts or thoughts on some of the coaching changes we've seen around the NFL.
Yeah, I'll start with the draft. And the Raiders getting the first pick makes me think that they'll absolutely keep it. And
Yeah.
I foresee Mendoza going to Vegas, which is kind of a weird thing considering who he is and what Vegas is as well, just as a city in general.
It's
But
hilarious.
I'm thinking if you have a franchise quarterback who's not going to be distracted by any of those things, he's kind of the guy to go after at this point. So I think I foresee Mendoza going that way, and I see Dante Moore becoming a Jets, is how I see 1-2
Pour
going.
one out for Dante Moore.
Yes, and you know what? It was a good career. You had a good run, buddy. But some intriguing things that I'm thinking about down the line for the Giants, a second weapon maybe for Jackson Dart because he'll have Malik Neighbors back. Wandale Robinson, who knows? He's kind of been that guy. He's kind of there.
He's like a good role player. I think
Yeah.
getting a guy above him to kind of slot him down into your number three option
Yeah.
would make him really useful.
And around pick number 5, we're looking at maybe Carnell Tate from Ohio State. I think would be a really interesting prospect for them.
Hmm.
One that I really love that I would think would be great, and no pun intended here, is Jeremiah Love to Kansas City potentially at number
Yeah,
9.
I would hate to see it, but it makes so much
Yeah.
sense in the world.
I've seen some mocks also having him go to New Orleans as a potential
Yeah,
option, but that's if they fully believe in Shuck at this point, which jury's
they're
out.
they're committed to him, and honestly, I really like him. I think he's pretty
Yeah.
good.
I think he was balling. I really do.
Yeah,
And I think considering what he had around him, he did pretty well. And then the
he
last
was. I
one,
saw a tweet that was like he's out here throwing to random civilians in week
he
18.
really is.
The Ronnie Bell caught a touchdown in that game.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah, he
That's
caught the
insane.
one that almost or that brought it real close. And honestly, I'm not like it stood out to me. It's not always like a moment that I like look for in a quarterback, but he threw this touchdown to cut it down to I think it was 4 points with like under 2 minutes to go. And Ronnie Bell's celebrating, his team celebrating, and Shuck's just like going to the sideline, like, all right, we got to get another one. I'm like, I kind of like that,
I like
from
that.
the
Yeah.
from the young guy of like, look, like we made a great play, but there's more ball to be
Let's
played.
get moving, yeah. And then the last one I think would be kind of a tone setter for a franchise who frankly needs a change at this would be at pick number 10, Caleb Downs. If he falls down to that point, I don't know if he'll get all the way down to 10, but Caleb Downs going
Yeah.
to Cincinnati would set a tone for a defense that could actually have an identity. He's so good not only in coverage but
Alabama
also
legend.
supporting the run. Yeah, true. But I think Caleb Downs for the Bengals, that would be one. And frankly, I think Jeremiah Love to the Chiefs, both of them would be candidates for trade up. I don't think you take a risk. I think you go get your guy and you go solve two of your biggest problems for both of those teams.
I can't endorse the trade up for a running back, but if there's anybody that could ever feel comfortable enough to do that, it's Kansas City.
I
Yeah,
would agree.
I think Mendoza Moore 1 and 2 makes all the sense in the world. Sorry, Justin Fields, your time in New York is done. By the way, did you see that the Jets, two stats about the Jets I just have to share. Number one, their leading receiver was Garrett Wilson, who had 393 yards on the season and didn't catch a pass after like October 6th. And they're the only team in modern NFL history to finish a season without a single interception. The previous record for fewest defensive interceptions was two, and they had zero on
That's
515 pass attempts.
awful. That's
Um,
awful.
yeah, and if you were they did a graphic where it's like who's this quarterback, and it was like record 14-3, like a bajillion yards, bajillion touchdowns, no picks, and it was every quarterback against the Jets this year. Yeah, Jeremiah Love to Kansas City is really intriguing from a football perspective, not from a personal perspective. But I think that that's the one that sticks out to me the most. Caleb Downs to or Cincinnati. I like that too. I'm interested to see what Arizona does. Definitely
Yeah.
not a three quarterback draft, and they seem to be ready for a new quarterback. So I'm very curious to see what they attempt to do, and then Tennessee should just pick whichever the top edge rusher is
Yes.
left at four. I like that for them. I think that they have some. They won only 3 games, but I think they've got some pluck to them. Like I don't think
I
they're
think so
too
too.
crazy far away. Well, we're gonna run out of time before we talk about coaches.
We can
So
do it real quick. We got
well,
a
we'll
minute
do it. Okay,
15.
we'll do it real quick. Stefanski was the fall guy for Watson. That's crazy.
Exactly. Exactly.
Um,
Scapegoat.
he will be hired immediately. I
Yes.
understand why the Ravens fired John Harbaugh. I don't know if I would have done it,
It was
but
surprising. It was surprising to
I
me.
I thought that he would get more than one bad year, but I guess they felt like it was stale there, and if there's stuff behind the scenes we don't know, then that makes sense.
He'll get hired again too.
I also think Mike McDaniel is a good coach. I think it was time for the Dolphins to move on, so I
It
kind of get
was.
that. And Pete Carroll needed to be gone from the Raiders.
Yes. I also
No
put
offense to Pete Carroll, it
McDaniel.
just didn't work.
No, no, it didn't. I also put in my notes McDaniel's going to find work. He'll be a coordinator somewhere soon.
He
Maybe
he
not
might even be a
immediately.
head coach somewhere. We'll
He
see. But
really
at
might. You
least
never know.
the Lions are horny for Mike McDaniel apparently for OC, which is devastating to think of. All
We'll take
right.
it though.
We'll
Hey, we did it.
catch you on the other side of this break real quick. And welcome back, folks. Jesse and I just finished. Obviously, there's no actual ad break, so I don't even know why I'm doing this. You just heard it. The NFL draft early thoughts and coach talk will obviously have some updates. If there's any hirings that we want to talk about in future episodes, and obviously when we get closer to the draft, I'm sure we'll do some sort of fun draft content. But just the regular season ended. Just some early thoughts that are kind of spiraling. Good Lord, around in our heads. I
It's
think
been a
we're
week.
bro, it's been such a week. The first week back of work in the new year is always kind of like it takes you like the whole week to get back up to speed. All right, I think we're ready for to play a couple games here. Jesse, I'm gonna go first here. Mine will be a lot shorter, and then honestly, once again, you bodied me in terms of game. And our first game here, which I actually did like the idea, so I'm interested to see where your brain went because I think this is a rare one where I don't think we're really going to have a lot of overlap, but I
No.
guess maybe we'll see. So, if you know me personally, you know that Christopher Nolan's Odyssey is like if you designed a movie in a lab to interest me, it would look a lot like that. I love the Odyssey. I love Greek mythology in general, but I love the story of the Odyssey. And I don't identify myself as like, oh man, I love Christopher Nolan, but I do love all of his
Yeah,
movies.
I just
Uh,
find that his films are awesome.
they're just like so sprawling, and I thought that Oppenheimer was breathtaking,
Yes.
truly breathtaking, and so I'm really excited for the Odyssey. So it got me thinking, you know, that's obviously a big historical event, but it hadn't been done in that movie fashion. So
Right.
it got me thinking, like, what are some other historical events or characters or people that we would want to see get a Christopher Nolan type big budget movie? So I think three. I really have two, and then kind of an honorable mention because that's the only way we ever know how to do this. But Jesse, I want you to give me your first movie first. And I gave Jesse the caveat if you have casting in mind, like you're welcome to share it, but you don't have to. I had a little bit, but not a lot.
So, one of my favorite films of all time is actually one of Nolan's movies, and it's Interstellar. I think it
Beautiful.
is just stunning. I mean, I love everything space. I got my astronaut tattoo on my wrist here, and I thought his depiction of everything with space travel and everything with it, which is one of the most stunning feats in modern film, or just any film history, to be frank. So, for this one, we don't really have a truly great Apollo 11 movie. We don't have a truly great first moon landing film. And the way that I see this is that the movie follows three timelines, and it's all three of the astronauts from that mission and their timelines converging into this moment in time that was just such a big moment in history. So I do have some casting for this one. I do not for my second one, and it'll make more sense when I get to that. But for Neil Armstrong, I casted Nicholas Hoult just because
Okay.
I think he could
Yeah.
play a really nice stoic Neil Armstrong. For Buzz Aldrin, I was looking for someone that had a little more charisma, a little more of that kind of cocky attitude, and I'm going with Glenn Powell for that one.
Sure. Yeah.
And
I
for
see it.
Michael Collins, just kind of that almost dry humor that Michael Collins had and playing the loneliest man in the universe. I went with Andrew Garfield for that one,
You
but
had to do it.
I had to just because he plays everywhere, frankly.
Yeah.
But
A versatile actor for sure.
with that, I anytime that he wants to do anything space related, I will be in the well, I don't want to say front row because that's the worst place to see a movie. I'll be in the back row, middle, with my popcorn and my massive oversized Diet Dr. Pepper.
I love that. That's a great. I also love Interstellar. It's just such a beautiful movie, and it just looks so good. Like
It's
he's
so
so
good,
good.
and it's held up. So I mean, I know it's not that old of a movie, but like it's going to age so
Yeah,
well.
and I like that. You know, like Apollo 13 was one of my favorite movies growing up, but that's when it goes wrong. Like you're right.
Oh
Like
yeah.
we don't really have that like incredible, like epic, like Apollo 11 movie. So I'm
Mhm.
super here for that. A little bit of a tone shift. The first movie I thought of for this was General Sherman's march through the South during the
Ooh, that's a
Civil
good one.
War.
That's a good one.
Truly, I loved the Civil War. I was a communications major and I took a Civil War history class in college just because it fascinates me. And I don't know that I could really pinpoint why, but just it's the only war we fought amongst ourselves in our country, and just
This is interesting.
everything about it fascinates me. Um, and Sherman's march was the only time that we've inflicted total war upon ourselves as a nation. And just the concept of Grant being like, hey man, I just need you to just wreck shit
Yeah,
and
I need you
really
to
just
go
like
in there.
keep going.
Yeah,
And just that whole process has always been fascinating to me. I would love to see like the sprawling epic. And I imagine like that had to probably wear on
oh,
him
I'm
and his
sure.
men because
I'm sure.
you're not just fighting battles where it's like you can convince yourself like this is necessary. You are
You're fighting
devastating.
countrymen. Yeah,
You are
and you
fighting
are
country and
going
you are
in.
devastating them. You are burning towns. You are
Yes.
burning farms. You are wrecking their way to live. And I think that would just play so well in a movie like this. Casting wise, I don't know. I was a little torn. I did look up what he looked like, at least in an oil painting, because I wanted to try to find somebody that looked kind of like him. And like, I just kept coming to Willem Dafoe, but Willem Dafoe is too old to do that. And I just think
De-aged
he would
Willem
do like
Dafoe.
such a good job because I love
Yeah.
Willem Dafoe and pretty much everything. Um, then I was like, Alden Ehrenreich is kind of an
Yeah.
actor that
Yeah.
I like, and I like it. I don't know if he's the exact fit for that, but I was interested in that casting. It kind of stood out to me as well. But that was my first thought that came to my mind when I came up with this exercise was just I'm thinking of like the why that's just the him portraying the horror of what total
Oh
war
yeah.
looks like. Just like instantly, I was like, I'm in.
Yeah.
I'm already sat for a movie that doesn't
I
exist.
love that, right? I am too. You convinced me. I don't have any money to fund it, but here we
No,
are.
of course not, but like surely we'll be patient.
So I actually am looking at my notes. I actually do have three myself as well.
Heck yeah. Number two, what you
So
got?
Number two, I think you're going to appreciate quite a bit. You and I are both big radio history buffs. I know you said your communications department, and our friendship very much blossomed under the tutelage of our wonderful radio program back in high school. But I thought it'd be really interesting to see kind of an ensemble cast that takes us through the history of mass communication, starting with, Morse code, going through radio, going into television, and going into the internet age and everything that goes with it. But with that, it's not following a central storyline, it's just a thread. And the thread is mass communication and how that shapes the world
Hmm.
and how we tell the story of the world through that. And I think it would be really interesting with his touch on it.
I like that. Like more of a concept film than like
Yes.
a specific. Ooh, Jesse, I like that.
Hmm.
I obviously, I'm already in, but
Oh, yes.
okay. My second one, Ferdinand Magellan and his crew
Ooh,
completed the first circumnavigation of the globe. But did you know that Ferdinand Magellan died before
he
the end
did.
of that journey?
He
And it was
did.
actually completed by a man named Elcano. I think like, and maybe this is a little too close to the Odyssey for to be like a true like original idea, but just the idea of you have a small cast in this fleet just going around the globe, and then you have Magellan who dies before the end, and his men and his subordinates have to finish the
I
mission,
love
and
it.
just how like world weary they must have been when they finally completed their journey. Like I'm just really
I'm there.
fascinated by what they would have faced, and it's more of a psychological probably
Oh yeah,
movie
I'm sure.
than some of these others because there's you're just sailing around, and I don't know how many misadventures they got into because I don't know all the intimate history of this, but Liam Cunningham, who played Sir Davos on Game of
Oh yes,
Thrones,
yeah,
he needs to be in this movie somehow. He could be
absolutely.
Magellan, I think would make sense. Although Magellan was in his like 40s, again, like the age thing, but
Yeah, make it work. Yeah,
he needs to be in the movie somewhere. Like I know that he is more than just one role, but I loved him as like this gritty sea guy.
yeah,
I need him to be present. But I feel like that would be a really interesting, like I would love to see how somebody like Christopher Nolan would depict that.
absolutely. And it's crazy to think about just how much time they spent around absolutely nothing and what you do in those moments as well. I mean, I
Yeah.
just went on a cruise. I was gone for 7 nights, and there was times where I'm looking out the water. I'm like, oh my goodness, I can't imagine. I had Wi-Fi, I had a buffet on that cruise. I can't imagine what they're going through on there. And even I'm feeling it sometimes. Like, I mean, we're kind of out in the middle of this here. Very, very interesting. That one is 100% greenlit. For my last one, this is my historical one that I'm going back towards. And for me, this is kind of the moment that we get out of the ancient world and we start going into more of the modern world. And it's the fall of Constantinople to the Ottoman Empire. And I think that moment in time was really just such a spark for different ideas flowing throughout the world. And the fall of the Byzantine Empire within that as well, I think
Mm.
would be just such an interesting look, not only of the battle itself and the fall itself of the city, but to see what happens from there, I think would be really cool in his hands.
I like that. Jesse, you went like so much more like conceptually. I think that I like that a lot. Like with, or even like your first idea with Apollo 11, like the multiple kind of like perspectives and timelines. Like,
We both, and this is why I love doing these segments though, is because we take them very differently, and yours tells the story of very specific people. And I know we've talked about why we love certain films, especially in like the MCU. Why we loved Guardians 3 was that it was such a smaller scale movie, and you had to care about the people within the film itself. And that lends it to its own type of film versus mine being a grander scale, more of a concept where you have to think about things on a macro level. And I really appreciate that we both went very different directions with that.
absolutely. My last one, a little bit different. Um, I would be interested in seeing a film about the Tulsa Race Massacre.
Ooh, yes, yes, yes.
For those who aren't familiar, because honestly, it's pretty shamefully an event that just isn't really as widely
No.
taught or understood. It's a 2 day long white supremacist terrorist massacre that took place in Tulsa in 1921. And Tulsa at the time had this area that was kind of known as Black Wall Street, which was like one of the wealthiest, strongest black communities in America. You know, businesses, banks, schools, like basically, one of the strongest communities for Black Americans at a time when that didn't really exist.
No.
And it's one of the, I mean, I don't have the stats in front of me, but I gotta imagine it's one of the worst racial violence incidents in America. Um, I think the final toll was like over 800 were injured. Um, we really don't even know how many people died truly,
Right.
but because the estimate that I saw was between 36 to 300. Um, but it was at this 2 day long racial violence terror spree in Tulsa. It left about 10,000 black people homeless, and the equivalent property damage was on nearly $40 million in like modern money. And it's been omitted, like I said, from histories for
Yeah.
years. It wasn't even part of the Oklahoma school curriculum until 2020.
Shameful.
And as kind of to go along with that, it's not really been touched in a lot of film or TV. In fact, how I really learned about it, and like this is crazy, was I watched the Watchmen HBO series when it came out in
That's where a
2019.
lot of people figured it out.
Yes,
Yep.
and it was like one of the
Yep.
first real like publicity or publicly available like versions of like the history of the Tulsa Race Massacre. And I it was just truly like one of the darkest times in our country to me. And I think that a really well done and thoughtful movie. Obviously, I don't want just a movie about the violence because that's not productive, but like what led to it and so that people just know and
Yeah.
are aware of this history. I would be interested in that.
And I think in the right hands, that would be a wonderful eye-opening film for people to see who don't fully understand what actually happened or really what it was like to be alive at that point as a minority in this country. And even still, I think that would open up a lot of eyes to the struggles that people have today. You know, we
Yes.
are far from having any of this solved. And I know I'm not going to sit on a pedestal and sit and talk about it because it's not my story to tell, but I think it's something that we do need to be more aware of, frankly. And we cannot begin to heal until we fully understand what has happened and we know the truth about what has happened. Somebody like Christopher Nolan doesn't shy away from the things that make us uncomfortable. And he showed in Oppenheimer, he even showed Oppenheimer as a deeply flawed person, as a deeply complicated person who thought about the things that he was doing and creating. So I definitely think I would trust him with that story, provided that he talks to people who experienced it or know people who experienced it. And I agree. I think that's a great choice.
Yeah, and I actually want to caveat, I don't even think that Christopher Nolan is the right person to direct this movie.
Yeah.
I just like from the perspective of like a Christopher Nolan type
Nolan-esque
movie and
film. Yes.
yes, esque film.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't I would I feel like that's not his story to tell either. And maybe, I don't know, he could be involved in product. He could be like a consulting producer or
Producer or
something,
something. Yeah.
just in terms but I'm thinking like this really character-driven story about like the horror and the devastation and not just to depict it, but to, you know, help make people think about what's really happened in our history and how we can avoid it because, modern, not to get too like into stuff, but modern times are very scary and
There.
sadly
There.
stuff like this seems more believable, and we just can't do that. We
No.
cannot allow racial violence or violence of this nature to happen again.
I'd
So,
love to see that in the hands of Ryan Coogler, actually.
yeah, Ryan Coogler or like Ava DuVernay, um,
Yes.
or just like just somebody that could do it justice. I think those are two names, obviously. That
Yeah.
Ryan Coogler, also one of my favorite directors.
I
Sinners
know you love yourself some Sinners.
Sinners
Yep.
is so good, and for not even the vampire reasons, just because it's
Yeah.
just an incredible story of, um, you know, immigrants and what happens to their cultures when they're adopted by the dominant culture,
Yeah.
and racial relations in that time, that older, like this, like 1920s type time frame.
Yeah.
Just a truly beautiful movie for so
Yeah.
many reasons. And then there's also vampires, which are kind of sick, but
Yeah. Also makes everything better.
yeah. All right. Well, that
I
was
enjoyed that. That was
yeah, that
great.
was I liked thinking about it. I
Yeah, it
I
made
love
me
this.
think for sure.
All right, Jesse. Why don't you kick off this next game since it was your game?
So for this one, I'm really hoping we can make this a reoccurring segment on here because I don't know about you, I had a lot of fun with this one.
I did too.
And I'm really hoping we can do something with this that not only can we do this for ourselves, but make this available for the people who watch this to experience as well. And we can post links for it. And I will try to figure out a way to do that. But without further ado, I'm calling this the playlist game. And how this worked was earlier in the week, Ben and I texted each other a phrase. And we had to take that phrase and turn it into a playlist. So we were giving each other the phrase, and the other person was taking that and building a playlist of 7 to 10 songs, which ended up being a little restrictive for myself. So we might
You
have
mean
to
as
make an
two people
adjustment.
that can't play a game without an honorable mention?
Correct. So with that being said, Ben texted me his phrase, and I took to Spotify and spent some time. And ironically, the phrase that he gave me was going to fall more into more of a sad music thing, and I'll touch more on this as we exit the show. But it's been a tough week. It's been a tough week, and frankly, it's been a tough week for both of us. But um, his phrase was, "Why do we fall, Bruce? Because man, it hurts like hell." And obviously, that's a pull from Batman. Um, and so I picked some sad boy songs that I think fit into this realm. So I'll go ahead and just read you through the songs that I have here,
Yeah.
and I'm starting it off with "The Abyss" by The Weeknd and Lana Del Rey. And to me, I needed something that was going to kind of sound like falling. And to me, the song just sounds like somebody falling throughout the entire thing until it kind of builds into the crescendo towards the end. From there, I have "Hey Ari" by Lauv, "Sincere" by Khalid, "All This Time" by Louis Tomlinson, which ironically is I think one of the best songs that's been released by any of the One Direction members outside
Wow.
of their stuff together.
Hmm.
Harry's obviously that the guy, but Louis had a couple bops here and there that I think deserve their love. Followed up with "Cinnamon Girl" by Lana Del Rey, "When I'm Gone" by Post Malone. Then my favorite song by Taylor Swift is actually "Mirrorball." Um, I adore those two albums. I really, really do. "Amsterdam" by Coldplay. "What Was I Made For" by Billie Eilish, and then finishing off with "Coffee" by Biba Doobie. Those are my 10.
All right. Jesse, that's a pretty good playlist. I like that. I
Thank you.
have I have 11 songs and an outro, which is a little bit
We'll take
cheating,
it.
but
We'll take it. We'll
I
take it.
couldn't really, I mean, I could make cuts right now, but I don't really want to do that. It's our game. So Jesse's phrase that he gave me, which this was his idea, so he gave me his phrase first, which kind of gave me an idea of like what kind of phrase to give him. So now when we play this going forward, we'll have both done it. So I was given, I am learning the language of becoming. So the way that I kind of took that was I went with a lot. We kind of actually both gave each other some sad boy songs, which I said this to Cheyenne. Really, the two best kinds of playlists to make are either like you're throwing like you're trying to party hard,
Yep.
or you're just really deep in your feels. There are other kinds of playlists to make. Those are just the two most fun to make.
Yes.
So we gave each other two more kind of down the vibes, but mine I interpreted to be more about you've been through the hard times
Yep.
and you're kind of learning who you are, you're becoming a newer version of yourself. You are actually I'm live cutting this one, so I have 10 and a outro. Because this one I added while I was thinking of it. But anyway, so my 11 technical songs. Happiness is a Butterfly by Lana Del Rey was the first song I
Excellent.
thought of.
We both end up
Um,
with Lana. I love it.
yeah, I was like, when you started reading yours, I was like, yeah, Lana Del Rey makes sense. So, like, if the vibe is less than ideal, then you will have Lana in your. Um, I did kind of end up with a repeat. Okay, I ended up with two songs by one artist, which I wanted to avoid, but I just felt like both made sense.
Sometimes it happens. Yeah.
I have two Gracie Abrams songs.
Yep. That
I
makes
know it
sense.
won't work and Free Now.
Hmm.
Obviously, both about relationships that just either aren't working or didn't work. Um, and I just felt like kind of spoke to the vibe of the playlist. Jesus Christ 2005, God Bless America by the 1975. Beautiful song.
Yep.
Um,
Underrated group, honestly. I do love the
Truly, a lot
1975.
of great songs. They're just kind of a mouthful sometimes to say. Clementine by Halsey, a way less known song by her, but I feel like it's just really about being honest about yourself and who you are. Um, Caffeine by Breakins, because I felt like I couldn't really do this playlist without
Without
a
a
Breakins
breaking song.
song, and it just fit the best. Somebody Else by Jaden.
Yep.
Also would have felt inappropriate.
Excellent song.
Homecoming Queen by Kelsey Ballerini, which is just a really nice song as well. Matilda by Harry Styles. I'm not as much of a Harry fan, but this is such a good song.
It is a
I
great
feel
song.
like it really fit thematically. I also had What Was I Made For by Billie
Are you?
Eilish, which is why if you watch this or listen to this back, I don't think you noticed in the moment, but I laughed when you said What Was I Made For, which
I thought you did, but I was like, I
people
don't
were
know.
probably like, that's kind of messed up, man. Like, I don't know why he's laughing. But I mean, it
What
fits
are the
both our.
odds that we choose two of the same song
It
out of
just
all the
fits.
music in the world?
It fits perfectly though. For yours, the hurt is so real and
Yeah.
raw. Like, what was the point?
Yeah.
You know?
Mine specifically, I will caveat, mine specifically is her performance of it at the Oscars that she did,
Yeah.
like live. Oh my
Elite, like
gosh.
chilling performance.
Insane.
So I had so that it fit for me because it's about, you know, your question, especially my version specifically is like the scene in Barbie,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
Where, she's like, what was the point? And like, you know what?
Yeah.
I'm gonna find new purpose. I'm giving myself new purpose.
Yes.
That's why it's last on the
I love it.
playlist. And then the final song, the outro, is Phantom Regret by Jim, which is the
Oh yeah,
outro of Dawn FM
yeah.
from the weekend.
Yeah. Yep.
And it's this like really like kind of chilling. Honestly, it's so I love it. I listen to it all the time. I'm not
It's so
usually like
good.
an intro or outro guy when it's like spoken word, always.
I
Sometimes
love
it's
that
like
album so
or like
much.
the skits as much, but I think it's just so good. It just really sets kind of the tone of like, I'm becoming who I'm meant to be.
Yeah.
So that was my playlist. I'm learning the language of becoming.
I love it. That was I had a lot of fun with that one because it made
I had
me
so much fun
yeah.
doing it. We will definitely be
So
doing it again.
I already have another one picked for you, so be on the lookout for this one again. And really, honestly, I do want to do more pop culture stuff with the pod and more
Yeah.
things as they come. This is going to be a huge year for film, a just absolutely huge year for movies. So we're going to be talking a lot of movies here coming up soon,
Yeah, we
no
haven't had
doubt.
a Marvel movie come out during the
Yeah,
pod's life yet. That'll obviously probably be a big chunk of our time. Well, that was our two games. We're going to go ahead and close out the episode with something a little bit different this time. Jesse, I'm gonna turn it to you and let you share whatever you want to share, man.
yeah. And I appreciate you putting us in here. Um, Wanted to take some time to just kind of talk about a family dog of ours that my dear wife, she had a little guy named Manny for 17 years, and I've been with my wife since we were in high school, so I've gotten to know Manny for the last 12 years or so. We lost him this week, and I'm going to try to get through this segment without tearing up here. But there's been different times in throughout his life that he was living with us when we had a house and a yard, and we were all kind of taking turns taking care of him. And anyone whoever met Manny was was positively impacted by him. He was just such a good dog and such an easygoing little guy. And I mean, he was only 4.5, 5 pounds. He was not very big, but he had the biggest heart. And it's been very tough watching him age and get to this point, but it obviously got to the point where my wife's parents had to make a very difficult but correct decision for him, and we're gonna miss him quite a bit. We really are. We're not quite sure how to move on from him at this point. It's been a tough week without him for sure, and just thank you, little guy, for bringing us a bunch of joy. And if you know me and my wife and you follow us on social media, we did recently get a puppy, so he's helped quite a bit. Oreo's has helped quite a bit get through this, but there's really no feeling that compares to losing a pet. Obviously, losing people is always difficult, but losing a pet just has a different sort of depression feeling just because they are so innocent and so important to us. But yeah, thank you for 17 wonderful years, little guy, and we're gonna miss you quite a bit.
One of my, my dad is allergic to very, very allergic to cats and dogs. And so I didn't grow up with cats and dogs. Manny was actually one of the first dogs I really got to spend a lot of extended time with, just in my relationship with Jesse and his in-laws and his wife and his sister-in-laws and all that. And I will never forget when I first started frequenting the Thule household. Manny just like wanted nothing to do with me. He just like would not be near. And he was, and Jesse, please correct me if I'm wrong, but he was always kind of a little skittish around men.
Yes, yes, he was.
I remember that because I was told that, and I was like, well, that's okay. Like he doesn't know me. I'm a stranger. I will never forget. We were talking about this, my wife and I earlier this week. I'll never forget the first time that he like crawled up and like laid on my lap and just kind of like started snoozing. Like
It's a
that was
badge of
just like
honor.
I didn't, like I said, I didn't get to have those experiences when I was younger. And I'm not obviously upset at my dad for his allergy. It is what it is.
No,
But it was just it was it's a fundamental moment in my life with pets. Just Manny's acceptance of me, and he was truly just the sweetest, goodest boy. And now that I have, as I'm currently petting him, a dog of my own that was my wife's that has now become mine, and I think of him, like my own dog, and obviously, and we have two cats, and I haven't experienced a lot of pet loss. We had a family dog that Cheyenne's mom had that we did have to make the same difficult choice, a couple of years ago. And I agree with you, Jesse. It sucks. There's just no way around it. Innocent is a great word because they depend on you for everything, and they're so unflinchingly loyal, and they just unconditionally love you no matter what. When you're having a hard day or a hard week or no matter what, they're there for you. And they love you and no matter what. And the pets do drive, some crazy silly stuff sometimes, but they're our they're man's best friends for sure. And Manny was a wonderful, wonderful dog. He was so deeply loved and he will be truly missed. And I'm so sorry for your and Ashlyn and Alyssa and Allison and Steph and Tim and everybody's loss.
we appreciate it. It's it hits you in waves, and this is their first time experiencing this kind of loss as well. So trying to help them navigate through that has been tough. But I did see on a bright note, I did see this drawing that came up, and Instagram's constantly scanning your stuff, and I obviously posted about losing Manny, and it hit me at the exact right time that it was this cartoon of this girl walking her dog, and in her mind, she's like, "Am I doing enough? Is he happy? Is he healthy? Does he know I love him? Is he, all these different things she's questioning." And the dog stop bubble is just, "You are my whole world,"
I've seen
and
this. Yeah.
you know, um,
It's emotionally
that
manipulative
yeah,
because it wrecks you.
it absolutely wrecks you, and it's so true. Dogs are the best of us. Pets are the best of us, So if you have a pet, hug them a little tighter this week, just 'cause you never know. You never know. And obviously we can't be upset for 17 incredible years. I mean, that's an otherworldly amount of time to have with any pet, but how lucky are we that we got to have something that we're going to miss this much. So we love you, Manny. We'll see you on the other side of the Rainbow Bridge at some point.
That's well said, Jesse. Thank you for being willing to share.
I appreciate it.
Well, folks, that's gonna do it for this episode of the Spillin It Pod. We're back. Like we said, format's probably gonna look a little different where we don't have any more NFL picks to make, so we're gonna be doing some new stuff. We're not giving up on the season, it's still going. We've got some NFL thoughts. We might talk some awards in the next couple weeks. We'll talk some wrap up the college football season too, but we'll start talking maybe more hoop. Jesse and I are both real interested in doing a little bit more pop culture type stuff. So, we'll definitely be talking about that. But that's what we got for this week. Jesse, any more final thoughts or things to look forward to?
I'm definitely looking forward to talking some more hoops, especially some college women's hoops. Audie Crooks has
Go
absolutely taken
Cyclones, baby.
over. Go Cyclones. I'm excited to talk about those things, but good to be back. Good to be back. Some tough start to the year, but that doesn't mean the rest of the year has to be bad. But we got a lot of cool stuff coming up, and excited to go on the journey with you.
Hell yeah, brother. And we'll this episode's coming a little late in the week. As mentioned, it's been kind of a tough one. But we'll get back to a more, well, we always say we'll get to a regular recording schedule, but I don't know even
What
know
is
what our
regular at this
regular
point?
is. So we'll
You guys will get the content when you get it, and you're gonna like it.
it'll come out and it'll be good, hopefully. And it won't be an hour and a half. So there's that. All
Yeah.
right,
Okay.
folks, thanks for tuning in. We'll catch you next week with more pop culture, sports, and much more.
See ya.